Dr. Heather Lamb, thank you so much for being here. I want to jump right into something that caught my attention. You received payment, thousands of dollars, months before you were supposed to start the work. Can you walk me through what that moment was like when you saw that notification?
I was just staring at my inbox, and there it was. Thousands of dollars for work I hadn't even started yet. And I'm thinking, who does that, right? That speaks volumes for favor. That speaks volumes for integrity because they know I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. It wasn't normal. It really wasn't. But that's been the rhythm
Of this walk, you know? That's interesting because you call it the faith walk. What does that actually mean in practice, like day to day? It's the
daily practice of laying problems at the feet of a father who solves what I cannot. I mean, every business decision, every grant application, every moment of uncertainty, it all goes to him. Not because I'm passive, but because I've learned the cost of trying to solve what only he can fix. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. Your career path is fascinating. Teacher, principal, central office leader, you even got a superintendent's license. That's a sprint through education. What was driving that restlessness?
That's a great question. I think I got a tad bit of ADD, a couple of years, and then it's like, on to the next thing. I actually got halfway through the superintendent program and realized I didn't even want the job. So that restlessness eventually pushed me out of traditional education and into entrepreneurship. And honestly, best decision I ever made.
And now you're running 2 ventures, right? Can you unpack what you're doing with those?
Yeah, so I run Dr. Heather Lamb Consulting, where I work as a workplace well-being strategist. I help schools combat teacher burnout. I see it every week, educators who are just drowning. And then there's Seek, my nonprofit. That's social and economic empowerment through knowledge. We've secured $250,000 in funding to train young people to launch businesses.
$250,000. That's incredible. Tell me about Entrepreneurship 1.0. What happens in those 5 weeks?
So here's what happens. We take participants ages 18 to 24 from side hustle to Maryland registered business in 5 weeks. I bring in lawyers, tax accountants, advisors, because I want the structure at the beginning to be correct. If they do something wrong later, that's on them, but I want to make sure they start off right. By the end, they've completed a business plan, pitched to funders, and walked away with a legitimate enterprise, or at least the clarity that their idea needs more work.
And you're expanding this to justice-impacted individuals now.
Yes, we're adapting the curriculum to meet the specific needs of people re-entering society after incarceration. The return on investment has been remarkable, really remarkable.
I want to shift gears a little bit. You grew up in the Church of God in Christ. Your mother was faithful for 50 years. How did that foundation shape the way you approach business today?
Church wasn't optional in my home. It was the foundation. And even during my 20s, when I explored life on my own terms, I never strayed far. You go and you look, but you really don't. You only stray but so far because that is the protection that you have from coming from a place where your family knows who he is. Today, my faith isn't compartmentalized from my work. It is my work.
You mentioned earlier about taking things to God. There's this phrase you use, take it to Daddy. Can you explain what you mean by that?
I treat him just like I would my daddy if he were alive. Daddy, can you come over here and handle that? That's Daddy. I'm thinking half of the stuff that happens to you happens so you can take it to him. So if you take the little stuff to him, the big stuff may not have to happen to you. Can you solve it? No. Can I solve it? No. Then take it to Daddy. What are we doing?
That's powerful. But you're also really transparent about your struggles. You mentioned that you pray, you give generously, but daily study, that's where you fall short. Why do you think it's important to be that honest?
Because I'm not interested in performing faith. I'm interested in living it, mess and all. You have to question and say, okay, so you say you're faith-based and you say that you are about Jesus, but you don't spend any time with him. When do you get recharged? When do you eat the word? When do you consume? I know I'm human every day and God is God every day. That gap is where grace lives, right?
Right. So, for the Christian business leader who's reading this from the corner office or the kitchen table, what's your message to them?
Stop acting like you're in this alone. When the invoice doesn't get paid, when the client backs out, when the hire doesn't work out, when the strategy fails, take it to daddy. Not as a last resort, as the first move. I'm not suggesting passivity, I'm suggesting partnership, strategic planning with loose hands, intentional effort with open palms.
I love that. Loose hands, open palms. That's a beautiful picture of what leadership with faith looks like. Before we wrap up, is there any one thing you want people to remember from this conversation?
Yeah, he does so much for me so often, and it's so not regular. Who does that? He does. That's the walk, that's the testimony, that's what it looks like to build a kingdom enterprise on the foundation of a father who shows up, especially when you don't have it all figured out.
Dr. Heather Lamb, thank you so much for your time and your transparency. This has been really, really good. For everyone listening, the full article and links to Dr. Lamb's work are in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in to Kingdom Factor Collective.